Rev up your engines!
Lopez says, what are your thoughts of the cylinder disengaging systems? Can it wear the engine faster? Can it make it last longer? Well, I don't like them because you lose power, they feel weird, but here's the strange thing. They actually, turns out that they end up wearing the engines out faster. Even the engineers aren't sure why this happens, but it does happen. Something about the oil doesn't lubricate them right, and they're going up and down, but they're not firing. Somehow, it wears them out faster. They're finding that if they are disengaged an awful lot of the time, that the engines actually wear out faster. So even though you're getting a little bit better gas mileage, if your engine wears out faster and it's a $4,000 engine, the little bit of money you saved in gasoline is never going to go back in your pocket when you can buy an engine for it. So me, I know cylinder disengagement systems don't have a car with it, and if you got like those GM ones that do, you can put a kit on them to disengage it so that it's normal and it never shuts the cylinders off. That's what I'd do if I had a car like that. Michael Richardson said, I got a 2012 Chevy Impala, 87,000 miles. My tailpipe is dripping a black fluid. Should I be worried? Generally, as they age, they'll run a little bit rich, which will make black. You're saying you have a black fluid. Generally what that is water and soot combination. Realize that we live on planet Earth and our atmosphere is like almost 80% nitrogen and almost 20% oxygen and a bunch of trace stuff. So when you burn gasoline in Earth's atmosphere, one of the byproducts is water vapor. So all cars do spit out some water out of the tailpipe, especially when you first start them up in the morning. Look out and let it sit, rev it up a little, you see some water dripping out. Now if that's black, it just means that the water has gotten into the black soot inside your muffler and then it drips out as black water. You want to pray that's what it is, because let's say you're having to add coolant to your radiator. Well, then that means that your head gasket's blowing, and the black water is your head gasket blowing into the exhaust, and that's why it comes out. But a lot of times it's just totally normal on one of those. If you're not losing oil and you're not losing coolant, it's just the water mixing with the soot of an older, worn-out car that it'll come out black like that. So pray that's what it is, and it's nothing serious. Nico Jeff says, Scotty, I got a 2000 GMC Safari, rear-wheel drive, 150,000 miles. I want to make it all-wheel drive because I go place I need all-wheel drive. Is it a good idea to make it all-wheel drive? No. It's a horrible idea. If you want all-wheel drive, sell it and buy something that's all-wheel drive. Anything can be changed if you want, but it would cost a small fortune to take the whole front end apart, to buy the front end parts from an all-wheel drive system, to put a transfer case on. I mean, I've seen people do that kind of stuff, but they were mechanics, they had time on their hands, they didn't like their wives, so they wanted to spend all their time hiding in the garage playing with their toys. So, it's not a good idea to ever convert it. If you want one, sell that and buy one that is all-wheel drive. Converting it is nothing but a massive, insane headache. J. Art says, hello Scotty, your thoughts on a 2000 Honda Civic Si, everything OEM in good condition for $8,000. Ooh, man, somebody saw you coming. That's a 20-year-old Civic for $8,000. No, that's way too much money for that vehicle. It's 20 years old. You get no guarantee of anything, and it's a Civic Si. It's not like it's some kind of collector's item. That's way, way, way too much money. If you like the car and they're serious about selling it, offer a whole much less than that. That's just way too much money. It could be a very good car. Could run fine. If mechanic checked us, said it's great. Yeah. But $8,000 for a 20-year-old Civic is way too much money. Here I Am says, what are your thoughts on an International Scout? Well, those were cool made vehicles back in the day. They're old as the hills now. Now, they are somewhat collectible, so you're not going to get a good one dirt cheap, but the advantage of it is, if you do get one that's in good condition, have a mechanic look at it, especially look for rusted frame, any rotted out parts, especially if you're up north, because they will rot. And if it's rotten, walk away. Don't buy one. It's a money pit if it's rotten. But say you find one in Arizona or New Mexico or Texas or something, and it's not rotted at all, and it's in good shape, they're worth some decent money. So if you do buy one at a good price, you're going to pay some money for it, but it'll hold its value or even go up. It's not going to be a money pit, because if it still runs good and it's not all rusted out, people like them, and you can always sell them on as you get tired of them. But do check for rust, because if it's rusted, forget it. Walk away from a rust bucket. Unknown person said, what are your thoughts on the next cop car? 2015 Ford Taurus Police Interceptor. Depends where the policemen were and how they drove them. Let's say they lived in a quiet little village where nothing ever happened. Hey, maybe it's in good shape. Let's say they lived in Houston, Texas, and they're chasing bad guys in the city. The thing's going to be falling apart. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Anytime you're going to look at an ex-cop car, you have to pay a mechanic like me to check it out before you buy it, because it could be it's on its last legs. You don't want to buy something that's on its last legs unless you're a mechanic yourself, or you want a project car and you can get it dirt cheap and you're planning on replacing the transmission, rebuilding the engine, and you get it cheap. Hey, go right ahead. But if you're going to use it as a regular driving car, have a mechanic check it out first. You don't want to buy something that's all worn out, that's going to need $10,000, $15,000 worth of work. Low for Brad says Scotty is an 07 Pontiac GT6 convertible with 100,000 miles, a good car. Probably not, from my experience. The G6s, they were really one of the reasons that Pontiac went bankrupt. Those G-Series, they weren't very reliable cars, and it kind of finished Pontiac off. I wouldn't buy one of those, especially with 100,000 miles. It's a convertible, but take the naysaying Scotty away, and let's say it's a really nice car and it runs good and it's convertible. If you can get it cheap, you didn't mention the price, it could be a good fun weekend car. Put the top down in the summer and the spring when it's nice outside and use it for a fun toy car in the weekend. But as an everyday driver, nix that job. They're not that dependable. They're not something you can drive with 100,000 miles, put 20,000 miles a year on, they'll fall apart in front of your very eyes. O'Neill Murr says 2012 Lexus ES 378,000 miles. Headlight lens are faded. How do I clear them up? Yeah, that's the thing about Lexus. They make great cars, but their headlights are made like crap. My wife's Lexus, same thing. Well, hers, I didn't care. I went on to Amazon and I bought beautiful new ones that had the angel eye ones and just replaced the whole assembly. But if you don't want to do that, they have various kits. You can even polish them with toothpaste if you want. It's so mild abrasive. But if you want to try to polish them, go to any auto parts store. And the 3M polish kit, they make very good polish kits for less than $20. And buy the kit, follow the directions, you'll get them really shiny. Now they'll fade again in, 9-10 months or a year or something, but you can keep polishing them if you want. Kits do work quite well, especially the 3M one. But like you say, if you're really cheap, get your toothpaste out, put on a rag, start polishing it, and you'll see they'll start to look better. And if you're happy with that, you can just live with that. iPings 43 says, Scotty, my left turn signal freezes when I step on the brakes from my 05 Silverado. What could be wrong? You got some kind of electrical short, because when you step on the brakes, if it freezes and then you take your foot off the brake, it stops. There's some type of electrical short between the brake light system and the turn signals. That's one of two things. One, the body control module, it's a computer module. When they go bad, they'll do exactly that. Could be the module's bad. Or it could be a bad ground wire. Because when you have a bad ground wire, a lot of times then power will feed through the ground, or ground will feed through the power, and weird stuff like that will happen. Pray that you got a bad ground wire. Get a little wiring diagram, see where all the ground wires are for the turn signals and the brake system. And luckily, maybe you can just find a ground wire that's all corroded and you need to just take it off, shine it all down with emery paper, and then bolt it on tight so it's metal contact with the frame. If it's not that, odds are it's the body control module, and they're not cheap. They're kind of a pain to replace. Elf Pimp 1 asks, thoughts on advice on older Toyota van as a work van? Oh, they're great vans. Now, the really old ones, crazy Previa vans, they had the 4-cylinder engine in the middle. They're so old now, most of them are generally pretty well worn out. But if you find one that still runs okay, they can be a great work van. But more commonly, you'll find a Toyota Sienna van. Now, I had a customer who was the original owner of a Toyota Sienna van, and he drove it for about 100,000 miles, and then he sold it used. Well, he sold it to this Hispanic guy that painted houses here in Houston. What a deal that guy got. He only charged him $1,200 for it, and the guy's still driving it 10 years later. The Toyota Siennas are fantastic work vans if you can find one at a good price. You can take the seats out and just turn it into a work van. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they can run forever. They're really well made. A Zone About says, Scotty, my man, is a blinking D-light bad? Well, it can be. What it means when your D-light, your drive light blinks, it means that the computer sees that there is a transmission trouble code, that there's some type of problem in the transmission system, so it makes the D-light blink. Now, what you got to do is find a guy like me with a scan tool, plug it in, and tell you what the code is. Now, sometimes it's something easy like like a sensor has gone bad and you just have to buy a new sensor, unscrew the old one, screw it in, you want to pray it's it. Sometimes it's something horrible like it'll say incorrect gear ratio, and if it's one of those, 90% of the time when you get an incorrect gear ratio code, it means the inside of the transmission is just all shot and worn out and you're going to have to rebuild the whole transmission. And a guy like me, have him scan it, see what the code is, and if you don't believe him, at least get the code number and email me the code number and I can tell you what it means. Seal Zebra says, I got a 1987 Ford Bronco, 302 V8, the mileage is terrible, 10 to 12 miles per gallon. Do you have any tips for increasing gas mileage? You got a dinosaur Bronco, 302 V8. Unfortunately, that's kind of what those things got for gas mileage if you drive them hard. Now, if you want to drive like an old granny and, you know, go 30 miles an hour and that's it, it'll probably go up a little bit. I'd say replace the carburetor, put an Edelbrock on it. It's better than the crap Ford put on them. But if it's fuel injected, you might have the fuel injectors cleaned, check that out. But really, those things get terrible gas mileage, and mainly it's driving slower. And like I say, if it's got the original carburetor, if it's carbureted, swap it out to like a brand new Edelbrock carburetor. They still sell them, and it'll help it some. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.